Welcome, Daniel. Okay, we have a packed three-part series kicking off today. To set this up, I want everybody to think back. A couple of months, a now less credible news source released a complete ranking of every Disney Marvel project. So all their shows, all their movies. It went a little viral, not for how complete it was, but for how horrible the ranking was. Just truly embarrassing, upset both of us.
And Tommy was so upset, he said, this is so bad. If they think that's bad, wait till they get my takes. So wow. I'm here to supervise.
Wow, that is crazy, given that we let you be on the show. That is ridiculous. Let you. But no, we were both so upset at this ranking that we just had to come and we had to do it ourselves, okay? Not that we have any more credibility, right? Or that we're having in any bigger standings, but we had to throw our hat into this race. So this will be, over the next 3 episodes, ranking all, at this point, 57 Disney Marvel projects. I think on the original list, it was like 54.
Yep.
So
as we started the ranking process, yes, we had a couple new additions. A couple new additions. That got
and to get a couple of things out of the way to set the stage, to clarify before we get into it, this will not include anything outside of the Disney realm or scope.
Correct. So yeah, this starts with Iron Man 1.
Right.
Now, unlike the DC video that we did,
right?
DC, we just did those movies,
yes,
for the DCEU or whatever they call it. So this is movies and shows
made by Disney. So we're not going to have things in here like the Defender saga from Netflix with Daredevil or Luke Cage.
No, Toby Spidey is not in this.
Nope. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, Cloak and Dagger, none of the Hulu stuff or ABC stuff will be in here.
So basically this is 2008. Iron Man
to today, and excluding also the one-shots. Okay, I know there are some of you out there that get really picky about including everything, so we just wanted to make sure that we outlined the contents of this list. I think that's everything to set up. Let's get started. Here we'll be covering.
So we said 3 parts.
3 parts.
So, we are starting at the bottom.
Yes.
So this is going to be the worst.
Yeah.
Then we're going to do middle tier, and we're going to end with a bang.
With a bang.
With the top 20.
The top 20. So this will be 57 through 40.
Yep.
I'll let you kick it off. All Disney MCU Marvel projects ranked number 57. The worst of the worst ever produced.
I feel we need an asterisk because this should have been a top tier one.
100%.
This is based on one of the most popular, famous comic events of the last couple decades, right?
Of course.
So this was, they got the right actors who signed up. This should have been a shoe-in, lock-in, easy home run.
That's right.
And yet we're starting off at the bottom with Secret Invasion.
Yeah, just a truly despicable project. I don't think I've ever enjoyed watching
Sam, if you're watching
less.
this, Mr. Jackson, this has nothing to do with you.
No.
Please come on. We'd love to talk to you more. Keep doing, MCU. Yeah. We need more Nick Fury.
Well, keep in mind, too, this was like one of the first times we saw Nick Fury actually in any substantive matter since Endgame, right? Because when he was in Spidey 2, that was a Skrull.
True.
And he only had like maybe a couple little scenes, but this was the first time that Nick Fury actually came back as Nick Fury, and it was basically just squandered and wasted in the worst way.
Now if you have made it all the way through this, there are some pretty engaging parts of this series.
Yes.
That you're like, as I watched it, I'm like, got about halfway through, there were some action scenes where it was done so well that I'm like, if we can continue this whole series could be turned around and saved. Yeah. And none of that happened.
It was marketed and promised as a dark, gritty thriller comparing, to something like Winter Soldier, but with Skrulls and Nick Fury, but they kill Maria Hill off in the first episode. Turns out Rhodey's a Skrull. don't really go into that at all. Still have yet to address that. So I think it really runs into just some clear-cut formatting and structural issues that really just knock any kind of interesting thread they might have introduced down. And again, too, this should have been Captain Marvel 2. It should have had its own movie. Secret Invasion was big enough. Captain Marvel was directly involved with the Skrulls. I get they kind of try to find a workaround for that in the show, but it doesn't really work. Secret Invasion.
This could have been a 2-hour movie, and it would have been action-packed, fast-paced, and you would have been blown back. But I also want to mention at this point that even though this is number 57, the worst of the MCU things, I would watch this over almost any DC movie that's been put out over the last 15 years.
That is a ridiculous take, and I know that's a ridiculous take from you because you openly talk about how you enjoy Henry Cavill as Superman.
I do.
Are you meaning to tell me that you would watch Secret Invasion over Man of Steel?
How about I would watch this twice over the bottom of the DC ranking that we had.
That is okay. That is fair. You should have led with that. Number 56, an argument can be made for 57.
It could. Probably my second favorite MCU casting, one of the original cast. Best. I mean, he is the most super of any hero casting on Marvel or DC side, and that includes Henry.
Okay, well, let's not jump the gun. Okay, we haven't even introduced the movie yet.
I know.
56.
But who is it?
Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm pretty sure everybody could have guessed that because that movie is straight trash. All right, Thor: Love and Thunder is horrible. It completely squanders and embarrasses Jason Aaron's incredible run on Thor. It wastes Christian Bale in probably the most insulting fashion you could have. Christian Bale, if we're talking actors for a second, is a league above Marvel, is a league above this genre. He is too good for a Marvel movie. So I think we were all really excited, and he was the highlight of that movie. He did his best. But just the complete overuse of Taika Waititi humor that Taika Waititi and the humor in Thor Ragnarok, which we will talk about much later in this list, is part of what made that movie so great. He overshoots and completely misses that with this one, and it just gets in the way more than it helps.
And much like Secret Invasion, the gore scenes for Christian, some of them were shot so cool, and they did so well on little aspects and scenes for him that as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, more of that might mask some of this other crap.
And I think these two projects, Thor: Love and Thunder especially, is where we introduce the theme of visual inconsistency, right? Because there are such cool scenes with gore, but there's also some moments of just the worst visual CGI you have ever seen in your life, all maybe within a 15-minute period. And it's so jarring that it completely takes you out of any immersion that you might have. And again, gore, that character was made so well in this movie because Christian Bale was playing it. Anybody else, I don't think it would have been as received as well as it had been. Thor: Love and Thunder is easily my least favorite movie in the MCU. Secret Invasion is a show. So I guess at this point we've kind of covered our bases here between movie and show. The worst.
And not far behind. Again, unfortunate because I think that people really like at least two of the castings in this next movie.
Number 55, yes.
And that would be Ant-Man Quantumania.
Right.
I guess for me, Jonathan Majors for Kang
was great.
He is captivating.
Yeah.
From Loki TV show, he steals scenes.
Right.
And so they wanted so bad to make Kang in Thanos' level for the MCU, and they were doing a decent job getting there, but then in this movie, Ant-Man just kind of kicks his ass, and it's like...
And you kind of look back at hindsight, and you say, okay, well, clearly they were trying to establish that he's not the strongest Kang. and there are way bigger threats out there than him. But if you look at it from the perspective of you're watching this movie in the theater and your next Thanos gets beat by Ant-Man, it kind of diminishes and destroys any stakes that you might have built up in Loki with He Who Remains. Completely undid any hype that Loki built up in about 2.5 hours. And again, it's one of those things where, this movie was so different from the other two Ant-Man movies. I mean, Ant-Man 1 is a fan favorite for a lot of people. It's not the best, but it's a fan favorite because it's funny, those characters, the interactions between Ant-Man and Luis and the whole gang and Hank, all of that's so good that carries over to the second one, which isn't as good, but still retains those characters. You get to 3, and Luis, none of the side characters are anywhere to be found. Hank Pym is barely in the movie. And it, again, just visual slop. I mean, the whole movie is filmed in front of a green screen. It looks terrible. MODOK, as a Marvel fan, I like MODOK. That's cool. But at some point, you have to say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. MODOK, they know, we know, everybody knows that there's no way MODOK would look menacing in a live-action format. And it didn't. So an argument should be made and should have been raised. Maybe we just shouldn't do MODOK, right? But that movie, it's not because of Jonathan Majors, because of the fact that Paul Rudd is still fun to watch on screen, does put this over Thor: Love and Thunder by a very slim margin.
We're really splitting hairs.
We are splitting hairs here, and that's a theme we're going to see going forward.
And I mean,
for the bottom part of this list.
Well, and throughout the list, there are some other ones that you're like, we could flip-flop. But, I mean, Chris Hemsworth's perfect casting still does not make Love and Thunder that much better.
You can only do so much at times. Number 54, another show bringing it back here. One that I think you just kind of have to question, why was this made, right? And that's going to be Echo. At number 54, that's going to be Echo. Now, Echo, I kind of struggle with some of these because on one hand, there's things you can appreciate about Echo. But the problem with it is that it never really feels like it fits in any meaningful way. I get it introduces Kingpin and Kingpin comes back, but that could have just been done in Daredevil.
Yep.
Or you could have just written it differently in Hawkeye to where he wasn't shot in the face or something like that. So you didn't have to bring it back in Echo to make up and continue the third line. Like, you didn't have to do that. But they did, and because they did that, they had to make the Echo show. And it just didn't work. I mean, what are the highlights of the Echo show? Seeing Kingpin and seeing Daredevil for like 3 minutes. Okay, those are the highlights of Echo. I hate to break it to you. It's not the worst show from a writing perspective on here. Like, there are shows going forward that are just not as well written. However, it is the most meaningless of all of them. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, it is number 54.
And continuing on the bad train, this easily could have been number 57. So I think we're being generous here.
Very. There's yes.
The Marvels.
Yes, Captain Marvel 2, The Marvels, number 53. How many times have you seen this movie? Once?
Once, yeah. I struggle to even say the word once, but I've seen it once.
Yes.
For me, growing up, like Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers was never really on my radar. Right. The first movie was surprisingly very good. And clear parallels to Wonder Woman. This is the feminist character. This is the strong woman in the Marvel universe. And Captain Marvel was a great movie. I would have no problem. I wouldn't turn that movie off. And then this one, boy, the Bollywood stuff.
Yeah.
And just like, it was so discombobulated. And I'm like, no, and Brie Larson is great. And ever since it was announced that she was cast, there have been just people online just bashing the hell out of her. And I'm like,
yeah,
what is Brie Larson is great. But like, so again, nothing to do with her. This is still her driving project, even though there were other marvelous people in it. But it just the story being so different and just not driving forward the story or the MCU.
And I think at the end of the day, too, it kind of follows up that theme from Ant-Man 3, where it's just tonally so different from the first movie. And it just loses, I think, what made the first movie fun to watch in the first place. Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, I think, is a highlight here. I mean, Brie Larson is great, but doesn't really bring a lot of energy in terms of a character. Like, her character and her acting doesn't really have a lot of energy or a lot of big, like, charismatic presence. Iman Vellani brings that to the table here.
Very true. Like, and I mean, Brie Larson, especially the timeline of where they put Carol Danvers. I mean, she is angsty Gen X,
of course.
You know, and that in the first movie comes through, right? And it was refreshing because I'm a Zennial, you know, like I'm like right in between X and a millennial, and so like that spoke to me because I'm like, oh, like. Especially for superheroes, you don't always see that, you know, like you think, oh, Superman, you know, like always being a Boy Scout, but like her little sarcastic nature, like really was refreshing to see. And that's why I like Peter Parker so much is because, you know, he's just a kid. Again, it shines through, but nothing against Ms. Marvel. You know, like she was
where I was going with that was, you know, the trio of them could have been so good, and I think was a highlight of the film. However, like you said, the Bollywood stuff, when they're on like the singing planet and everybody's singing, it's just stupid. Mm-hmm. Like it's just dumb. Like I saw this movie in the theater. Okay, I went to see this movie in the theater.
Sorry,
that was a rough experience, and I was like, oh my God, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, is this really what we're putting on the screen right now? I'm watching people sing. I'm watching them get eaten by cats. What the hell is happening? Is there any reason or rhyme to what's going on? There's nothing. It was a completely discombobulated mess, tonally inconsistent, and honestly, the charisma and the connection between the three characters really just didn't do anything. You had a villain that didn't. I don't even know their name. Did the villain have a name? I don't know. Their motivations clear and not even relevant anyway to the larger MCU universe. And probably the worst part about it, the Marvels has maybe the most important post-credit scene since Endgame. And I can tell you, nobody talked about it. The movie came out, the X-Men show up in the post-credit scene for the first time in live action in the MCU.
And who am I a big fan of?
Beast, Hank McCoy. You are a Hank McCoy rider. Ride or die for Hank McCoy, okay? You're on that beast, literally. And
I'll allow that. I'll allow that.
And at the end of and nobody talked about it. It went completely under the radar because nobody wanted to stay for the post-credit scene of this absolute dumpster fire of a film. Number 52.
I only have 3 words to say about it.
So the only 3 words you need to say.
Yeah.
I am Groot.
I am Groot.
I am Groot. We threw in the shorts, okay? The little mini 15-minute shorts we threw in here. We figured they were more than a one-shot, so they should be included in this in some way. The reason why it's so low, because there's really nothing going on here, right? We threw it in because of consistency, because we were going to put Eyes of Wakanda in here. We figured we put I Am Groot in here as well, and there's just nothing really to say about it. It's here. It's better than the Marvels. Yes. It has more going for it.
It's inoffensive, you know, like popcorn. Just these are the equivalent of watching an episode or 2 of Bluey.
That's right. And that's it's a great comparison, actually. Number 51.
Thank you.
Maybe our first big project. I know for some people watching out here, it might be one of those things where they've been surprised to not hear it yet. Number 51 is going to be She-Hulk. at number 51. I know you are a little bit more positive on She-Hulk than I am. Here's what I'll say about it. I want to keep She-Hulk a little more brief. Here's what I'll say about She-Hulk. The humor didn't land for me at all. There were a few jokes here and there that were kind of funny, but like they
fourth wall breaking 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
You know, like, and some of it, you're like, okay, I kind of see what they're going for, but it wasn't, it wasn't the home run that they were hoping for.
No, the humor doesn't land. What they did to the Hulk is maybe one of the biggest insults and misplays in MCU history.
But guess who shows up? Double M. Tommy loves a double M.
Matt Murdock. Well, that episode is actually pretty good, all things considered, because of Daredevil. A lot of people were looking for a way to hate on the fact that Daredevil was here or hate on how they did Daredevil. I thought it was completely fine. But the villain, like the intelligentsia stuff, that was just such a clear way to like kind of half be meta, half not be meta, and it just didn't really hit at all.
Now, again, at least I'm looking at the list and I keep saying the same thing for a lot of these, and it's like, hey, She-Hulk was a great character. I like the actress playing her. Like, I like her, but she did not need her own series.
No.
Like, I know she's going to be in Secret War and Doomsday and all this stuff. Like, yes, I want more. Like, I think I enjoyed her a lot. I hope that she gets to play with the teams, and like I think that she will be a good addition to that. But I certainly don't need a season 2 and no solo movie. Like, if she wants to pop up in anybody's movie, pop away. That I'm fine with that. But I have nothing else to really.
And She-Hulk is a prime example of Marvel making something and thinking that just because it's Marvel, it will succeed. Right? They didn't put any care or effort in villains or the antagonist or the side characters or even She-Hulk as a character, giving them compelling arcs or stories to follow. I mean, they just used the Hulk as a prop to make She-Hulk look better, and that's just weak. You just can't. That's horrible. That's horrible what they did to the Hulk. It's why it is so low. They could, if they kept the Hulk out of it a little bit more, you know, if it was like they keep him in for the car scene so you can explain how she gets his powers, and maybe there's a quick little, you know, couple of scenes where she's with him and she's learning, but just that whole first episode where it's like, I hate how they've been treating the Hulk, and She-Hulk is the main problem for that.
Well, kind of makes you wonder, what if?
What if they did the Hulk better? What if the Hulk had any kind of interesting story in What If? Number 50. 50.
What if? You know, like, fun little Marvel side project, right? Marvel What If.
For the first season.
You know, like, again, just kind of fun little quick episodes of different scenarios. Doesn't drive any future MCU stories or anything. Some people came back for voices, some didn't. Yeah. You know, like, it's fine.
I pushed What If to be this low. I pushed for it because the first season was fine. There was some interesting stuff in the first season, right? Obviously, the What If Ultron one, the What If, you know, T'Challa, that stuff was really cool. But then you get to the second season and you start getting these like little gimmick episodes, you know, like, what if Justin Hammer took over at Christmas? And you're like, okay, I'm just wasting 20 minutes of my time here. His
time isn't worth that much, so take that for what
again,
it is.
This is crazy. Anyway, the second and third season where they just squandered the potential of alternate scenarios and use it for like little gimmicks got really annoying really quickly. There was, again, every season had its highlight, but it just fell so flat so fast post the first season.
Well, it's kind of amazing. Like, you know, after a while, you just kind of get lulled into this weird headspace. Like, you're just kind of like a zombie.
That is, you're killing it with the tie-ins. That's why we keep you around here. Number 49, Marvel Zombies, the newest project at time of filming to release, is going to be at our number 49. All right, Marvel Zombies it wasn't bad. Okay, we're kind of coming to the point now where we're out of the worst of the worst. All right, we're well past the worst of the worst, and we're kind of into this weird kind of stage where it's like, okay, that really wasn't great, but there are worse. And I think that is the perfect way to describe Marvel Zombies, because it watched like a movie. Like, you could clearly tell it was supposed to be kind of a movie at first. Like, it was written as a movie and broken up into 4 episodes. And they put, again, the main focus on Miss Marvel, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, but it's so rushed and it's so kind of shoehorned and moved along because of the 4-episode limit that any kind of meaningful story or character moments or theme they were building to doesn't really have any time to set in. So you're just kind of watching. Now, the gore was cool. The blood was cool.
Cool.
Blade Knight is maybe one of the coolest original Marvel characters they have ever released. But the power scaling was kind of all over the place here. Like, they introduced the zombie Thor, and it's so wildly, these characters are so wildly overpowered, like Infinity Stone Hulk. But sometimes Infinity Stone Hulk can tank, every hit from Thor. Other times he's going down to like an R. You know what I mean? The power scaling is all over the place. Blade Knight gets one shot by Thor, which was not fun for me to watch. That hurt. But anyway, it's just one of those projects where you watch it and you just quickly forget about it and move on.
Much like the next one.
Much like the next one. Not much to say here.
No. I mean,
number 48.
I get it. Everyone likes a Forever Wakanda.
Right.
But the Eyes of Wakanda project, you could just feel like we need to put out some Black Panther, something to keep people interested in that world.
And it is important to mention here that it was Ryan Coogler directed. He did have his hands on this. But again, it's one of those things, like, you watch it, you're like, okay, maybe that was kind of interesting. And then you move on, right? And I know we've talked about it before, just wasting the Disney Plus feature on stuff that's forgettable like this. Obviously everything should have its day in the sun. I'm not saying these necessarily shouldn't have been made, but when these are occupying release, like when it's this, and then you have to wait 3 months for an actual another show, you start to be like, what are we doing with Disney Plus? Why aren't we utilizing this better? Release Eyes of Wakanda. That's fine. But it's really not, it's not that important. And we're coming at a point now where there's an Avengers movie in 12 months, pretty much 14 months. And we've only had a couple of post-credit scenes to actually set it up. It doesn't have the setup. It doesn't have the build-up that Infinity War had. And as you get closer, I think you're going to start to see that worry play through. And a large part of that is because these Disney Plus shows that they've been releasing have been stuff that's been sitting on their shelf for like 3 or 4 years. And because it's Ryan Coogler, because they don't want to piss him off, they're going to release it. But that spot could have gone to something else. That spot could have been utilized better. So it's not that Eyes of Wakanda is necessarily the worst project, but it's just forgettable. Number 47.
Another project that could have probably done better, but again, we hope that as you watch these episodes and follow along on the rankings, like, there are definite levels and tiers to all this, and we are not in the bottom of the bottom anymore, like you said, but things can flip flop fluctuate in these little micro zones, and
for sure,
and this could be another one. But Agatha All Along,
yes, number 47. Agatha is not a character I particularly enjoyed that much in WandaVision.
Well, he hates Catherine Hahn, but I don't. So if Catherine, if you're listening,
never said I hated Catherine Hahn.
You insinuated.
Find the clip.
Catherine, if you want to come on, girl, anytime.
Find the clip. But anyway, this is this is kind of one of those, again, trilogies within the, that they're trying to build a trilogy within the big, saga. This is like the WandaVision trilogy. It goes WandaVision, Agatha, and then next year Vision Quest, right? And again, I didn't really like WandaVision that much. It's better than all of this combined, but it was not really my favorite thing. I wasn't really a big Agatha fan. Personally, I don't really give a crap about the Young Avengers or, Wanda's kids. Sue me. I'm sorry. But that was really, going into the show, you're like, okay, what's the reason to watch this, right? Maybe you like Agatha, and that's enough to say, I'm going to check it out. And for a lot of people, that's great. That's what it was.
It was her all along.
It was her all along. But for me, it's, okay, what's the reason I'm watching this, right? Maybe this is where they're going to finally introduce Mephisto, which we'll get to in just a minute. Maybe this is, again, maybe I want to see what they do with Wanda's kids, Wakan, all those guys, right? That's Wanda's son, Billy. Maximoff, but I wasn't really into it. I made it through about 2 episodes. Wasn't really feeling it. The humor didn't land. The characters weren't landing for me. So I just applied my newly learned lesson of turning off the television. And unfortunately, I didn't really come back to it until we were doing this list, and nothing really changed.
Speaking of wishing you could turn off the television, Ms. Marvel.
That's unfair to Ms. Marvel. I'm going to stop you right there. Number 46, Ms. Marvel. It deserves to be where it is, but I think it gets a bad rap. Ms. Marvel was not anywhere close to the worst of the shows. Iman Vellani is great as Ms. Marvel. One of their best casting, I think, in the MCU. Really brings that character to life. It is the accuracy she brings to that character, and her story is incredible. It was, I think, a really well told, because some of what these projects are doing, like Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Shang-Chi, they're trying to establish new angles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Trying to bring the light to different parts of it other than the big world-ending fight in New York City, right? And while this takes place in Jersey, not far off, it does a really good job.
You wouldn't understand.
It does a really good job of showing what life might be like for a civilian or a family in the Marvel Universe, And obviously she becomes a superhero and all of that, and that's the point of the show. But the realism and sort of the family dynamic that's at play here is really strong. And I think it deserves to be at 46. There are much better things following, but I want no one to take the impression that I think this is a horrible show.
Noted. You still hate Catherine Hahn for some reason, though.
Nobody ever said that. Nobody ever said that.
He has it tattooed.
Number 45. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think this should be lower. I conceded this ranking to you. I think it should be lower. I hate this movie so much.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll let you go first.
I'm taken back. Anything Sir Benedict is in is I'm already in. Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, is great. And this movie, I get it. They're trying to, this was kind of one of the first mix and match from different properties, right?
Yes.
They're like, okay, we got Doctor Strange. Obviously, we need more solo movies of him. Let's throw some Wanda in there. I don't hate either of those characters. This is just, the trippiness was a lot to take in. Mm-hmm. And multiverse stuff can be difficult even if it's executed perfectly. This wasn't, but the comeback cameos.
It was,
I'm talking about Sir Patrick, okay?
Of course.
You know, we get Charles Xavier back. To me, I mean, that's incredible. Star Trek The Next Generation is the best Star Trek show. He was the driving force behind that. He gave me my last name. And then I guess also in that the council scene, you know, that was our first Reed Richards.
That was our first Reed Richards.
And I was...
He's a John Krasinski fan.
Yeah. John Krasinski's great. Him showing up there, I mean, I was like, oh, you could totally do Reed Richards. Not only that, but Marvel just effed this up so bad. You should have brought John back, and you should have cast his wife, because that would have been the Invisible Woman and Reed Richards in real life. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that is...
I'm sorry, it would have been fantastic.
It would have been fantastic. Let me tell you why I don't like this movie, all right? Sam Raimi is a great director, iconic. Everybody loves Sam Raimi.
Except Atomic Tommy.
No. You are not. No, I have no problem with Sam Raimi, Let the Record Show. However, Doctor Strange 1 opens the sequel. Like, it leaves the door open for the sequel, establishes the threads, and the sequel proceeds to follow up absolutely none of it. Okay? Mordo does return, but it's not our Mordo. It's the alternate universe Mordo. And that thread, which was actually really an interesting one, if you think back to the first Doctor Strange movie, a sorcerer going rogue, wanting to take away and remove, sorcerers from the earth who are abusing or wasting their powers, is a really, really interesting thing to establish and maybe move forward with for a Doctor Strange property, given that you could make the case that Doctor Strange and his troubled past and his character wouldn't be worthy of it. So it'd be a really interesting thing and for Doctor Strange, a character study for Doctor Strange, as well as an opportunity for him to grow as a person. However, that's not followed up at all in this movie and is proceeded to just to try and be new and to be different. And while there are fun moments, the Illuminati being one of them, I also just kind of take a little bit of an issue with how that final scene was written, where Wanda just completely kills them all. Hey, Reed Richards, let's not maybe tell Wanda Black Bolt's like direct ability. Let's maybe not do that. It's a fundamental writing issue. It's a misunderstanding of the characters, and it's clear that they're only there to drive movie and ticket sales. And everybody loves Sir Patrick. Can't wait to see him back in Avengers Doomsday. However, it doesn't really do anything for me in terms of enjoyment of the film.
And that's why it's 45.
That is why it's 45.
And
fair.
And I'm excited about 44.
Yes, 44. Take it away.
So I fought for this to be a little bit pushed up higher than you would have liked.
Yes.
I believe. A little. There was some debate about this.
There was some debate, but again, a lot of these can be switched around.
Of course. This one, I wanted to push a little bit higher, and, this is a good landing spot for it, but I was stoked at the end of this show. Mm-hmm. And there's only one reason. It has.
And what is that show?
And here's the problem with this show, and I'm going to tell you what it is. The side characters were more important than the main character, and they were the most scene-grabbing, attention-grabbing, and they pushed more than the main character did, which is why number 44 is Ironheart.
Again, one of those newer releases for Marvel, and an interesting property, because this show was developed and made like 2 years ago. Probably more. This was announced back in like 21 or 22, and was scheduled for release in 23. Note it did not come out till June of 25. Now, them announcing it insinuates that the project is well into development, either close to being done filming or done filming completely, which I think was the case in in the terms of this show, it was either sort of close to being done filming or wrapping up, or at least in the late stages of pre-production. So it was in development for probably a good year or so prior to the announcement of the show, because they were going off of the assumption that the character would be loved in Black Panther 2. They were introducing it in Black Panther 2 and wanting to quickly release the show following up the next year, which is why Black Panther 2 was in 2022. Ironheart would have been in 2023. Nobody really liked Ironheart and Black Panther 2, so they shelved it. But again, because it was Ryan Coogler, eventually they got to push it out somewhere. Mm-hmm. But whether it was, for tax purposes or what have you, they had to release the show. And it just comes off as, it's not doing any good on the shelf, so you might as well release it. And it's so jarring to watch because you can tell it was made under a different MCU. Different people running the ship, different people with different ideas.
And again, this is 44, so I'm not going to talk much more about this, but the saving grace of that show that just blew me away and I was so stoked for was the casting of a side character that was slowly built up and introduced at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mephisto. Oh, man. What a great casting. He was so effing creepy, and he was spot on.
He was freaky.
And I'm like, I want him to just pop up. I don't care if he has any lines. If he's just like walking past somebody in every MCU movie from now on,
I hope he gets to make an appearance somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, I hope, when they do the reboot, I hope that he is carried over. They don't recast that. I hope he has somewhere to show up in the next couple of films leading up to it, because that was the only reason it's 44.
Yeah,
is,
this could have been 50, 56, 7.
Again,
this could have been down there. I fought to get. I was so excited for Mephisto.
Notice the theme here of all of these forgettable. Speaking of number 43, and it pains me. It pains me because I am a fan of this movie. I like it. I rewatch it frequently. Number 43, Eternals.
He watches it to go to sleep to.
That is not necessarily wrong. Eternals is actually a really interesting movie. I really liked the new characters. I really liked the premise. I thought it was fun. Visually, a great movie. This movie is visually incredible. I think one of the best Marvel movies visually out there. As a fan of The Flash. A fan of speedster characters, every scene with Makari, some of the best live-action speedster characters ever. I don't think DC will ever be able to replicate that. So that was a definite bonus to see. But there was so many interesting threads in this movie. So many interesting things to consider. Fastos. Let's take a look at him for a second. When they have that scene where he's, sitting in like a bomb crater because he knows he and his technology and his pushing of humanity helped develop that. That is so interesting psychologically, but the movie doesn't have enough time to really go into all of that because there's so many characters that nothing's really completed. Nothing feels satisfyingly concluded.
This might be the first one where I'm like, instead of a mini-series or a show that could have just been a movie.
Yeah.
The Eternals had so many characters, so many levels, so many introductions that this probably would have been better received as a series instead.
100%. Every character is having differing views on humanity and how they should be involved was great. Druig was so interesting, but was never in the movie because there was never enough time for him to be in the movie. Eternal should have been a show. I liked it. I wish those characters weren't written out of the MCU like they have been. It took them 4 years to address the giant hand in the Indian Ocean, but we'll get to that. Number 42. One, you fought for this. You fought for this, and I'll introduce the movie, and there's something fun I want to say about it.
So, again, I'm swinging. I'm trying to bump these guys up a little bit just because I love the characters so much, and this one is kind of universally disliked. But again, I don't feel too bad for putting it here because we are still in the bottom tier. But Thor: The Dark World.
And what's interesting about Thor 2 is that at the time, right, you go back to Infinity War or Endgame and you look at the MCU and you say, well, the worst one is Thor: The Dark World. Like at the time, that was the worst Marvel movie. And you're like, it doesn't get worse than Thor 2. It's gone worse than Thor 2. So much worse, in fact, that
there's like 15 worse things.
There is 15 worse things since Thor 2. To the point where you watch it now and you're like, perhaps I treated you too harshly. Like it's crazy.
I've been waiting for him to say that to me for years.
Hasn't happened. It's crazy because you look back and you're like, well, some of the stuff with Loki is actually pretty cool. Some of this, like, I don't think any of us are really a big fan of the dark elves as villains, right? Those were kind of throwaway villains. But some of the stuff with Loki and some of it was cool looking back at it now.
Love me some Loki.
Loki is one of the best characters in the MCU. Number 41, we talked a little bit about it earlier. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, Ant-Man and the Wasp, not as good as Ant-Man 1, better than Ant-Man 3. I think tries a little too hard to be funny, and I think that's what keeps it lower.
Yeah.
It tries a little too hard. In every capacity.
And Scott Lang, maybe, this is the beginning of proving you work best in a team.
Yes.
And that's not meaning to be a diss or mean or anything, but not every character that we've gone through so far or will go through needs to have their own solo adventures.
Right.
And or a solo movie, like you can get away with a couple episodes on Disney Plus, but
it tries to balance being funny and comedic and not being taken seriously with having like serious moments, like the character of Ghost and Bill Foster's role and their relationship isn't necessarily supposed to be a joke, but because of everything else going on, that's all it really ever comes out to be. Which is why Ghost never really came off as a convincing character, even when you look at Thunderbolts, where Ghost was just kind of there in the sideline the whole time. Never really had anything going on. That's because there was never really any setup for her in this movie to fall back to. They could have done something, but they just couldn't. Ant-Man and the Wasp was interesting, had some fun moments, but tries too hard. Number 40. Our final tier that we're going to be talking about, our final ranking we're going to be talking about for this part.
Which is the first MCU sequel.
Yes, it is.
This came out in 2010. They couldn't have worked on this fast enough after the success, the surprise success of the first one. And again, I think we're to the cusp of, just because you're ranked on the lower side, that's not a bad thing. Like, there's just so much other good, better, best, amazing stuff that comes up. I would say, right, for this movie in particular, like, this isn't a bad movie.
In hindsight, yeah. I think this follows kind of the Thor Dark World trend, where you go back to Endgame and you look and you're like, wow, that movie was not good. But you look at it today, 5-6 years later, and you say, okay, maybe this wasn't that bad.
Or 6-7 years later?
You're too old for that.
Okay.
You're too old for that.
I don't get it.
You're
so if you
too
can
old
tell me what that is,
South
I
Park
don't know.
You're too old for that. It's just one of those things where looking back, you're like, yeah, that wasn't horrible. Like, there are worse now. I still wouldn't go out of my way to rewatch it, but it does have that cool suit up scene on the racetrack. And
we're talking Iron Man 2.
Yes.
If you haven't picked up on that yet, because we haven't explicitly said that.
Oh.
But
yes,
Iron Man 2. Sam Rockwell is one of my favorite people. If he's in a movie, I am going to have some enjoyment out of it. So him as Justin Hammer, I think is fantastic. Villain. had a plausible, believable backstory and motivation. Some of these don't.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
but Whiplash Tony's father stole stuff, didn't give him credit, so that's a motivating factor.
At the time in the MCU, given that there was only like one or two other movies, that is absolutely a fair motivation or setup to have. Given that there's nowhere else you would have explained that. There's nowhere else you would have had anywhere to discredit that or contradict that. So that is fair. That is a convincing motivation. It's just for me, again, at this point, there are better movies I would rather watch.
For sure. But again, Iron Man 2, solid. And really the only instance that dealt with Tony Stark's alcoholism.
That is very, very true.
And I say alcoholism as in excess, because give me a scotch, I'm starving, and I'll have that drink. But this one deals with his over drinking. And
one of the only Iron Man movies to really dive into his complex relationship with his father and grappling with the fact that he actually did love him in some capacity. I mean, you get a little bit of that in Iron Man 1. Not so much in Iron Man 3, because at that point, Avengers has happened and we're moving past all that. It comes back in Endgame when they meet, but this is a movie that actually tries to deal with that, and how it connects and how it affects him as a character, and how he works and how he's motivated, and the kind of person he is because of his father's impact on him. So it is 40. We're higher up now into the list, and I think it's fair reflection of that.
Yeah. Again, it's an entertaining movie. I like it. RDJ is, really hitting stride.
Yeah.
So he is really saying, okay, I am Tony Stark. I know how to do this now. Mm-hmm. Not that he didn't in the first one, because he is Tony Stark, but he got wrapped up in the character.
And
for sure.
We get Black Widow introduced in this movie.
If ScarJo is listening,
which she's not,
you are welcome anytime, day or night. We will make time for you. Tommy won't even be here. It's fine.
It's great. But a lot of important stuff in Iron Man 2. That is where we're going to stop, however, for this week. Next week, we will be talking about 39 through 21. So make sure you come back for part 2 of the Disney Marvel ranking. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Well, what do you guys think? If we screwed up or if we forgot, I want to hear about it. Because if it's my fault, I'll own up to it. If it's his, I like to rub it in his face. So please give me something to do that.
For now, before we wrap up, let's do some shout-outs. Shout-outs. Let's do some shout-outs.
Wait,
shout-out.
Now, this is unprecedented.
You're not getting a shout-out. Shout-out to Jamie. Jamie, our newest employee on Mondays. Come see her working on Mondays 11 to 5. How about a little Matt and JD? Shout out to Matt and JD. Always there, always present. Absolute staples here at Most Wanted Comics.
How about the Tank?
Shout out to the Tank.
Putting up with you here and at home. That's a hell of a job.
Lord knows he might. We were just talking about scotch. Lord knows he might need some. Shout out to the Gostovich family. Shout out to the Dwyer family. Shout out to Mark, the Aquaman fan. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to all 3 of our other Dans, as well as David, aka our Superman fan. With that, thank you all for tuning in this week. We will see you next week back with more rankings.